I assume that the majority of our people are joining us online. So, you know, even if you don't have PACE in your town tonight, this can be beneficial for you to really just get a good sense of what the homeowner process will be and, you know, what you'll actually have to go through if you're going to take advantage of PACE financing. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So what is PACE? PACE stands for Property Assessed Clean Energy, and it is a financing mechanism that after approval allows the homeowner to finance efficiency or renewable home energy improvements. A few of the major benefits of PACE or the aspects of PACE, one, there are long payback periods of 10, 15, or 20 years with low fixed assessment payments. 2, the assessment is tied to the property rather than the homeowner. And 3, with PACE, an analysis is performed of your proposed energy improvement, which will provide the homeowner with an estimated first-year energy savings and projected payments. And this is really for the homeowner to get a good sense of, you know, the implications of their project. So, how do you know if PACE is right for you? Well, if you've been considering an energy improvement to your home, but you encounter a financial barrier, PACE can help eliminate that because the costs of the improvements are spread out over the lifetime of the measures. If you're considering a project but aren't sure that you'll be in the house long enough to realize the payback, because PACE is transferable and it's tied to the property, when you move, the assessment gets taken over by the new homeowners. So you're really only paying for the improvements while you're realizing the benefits. And thirdly, if you're just not sure that the results from your project are maybe worth what you'll be paying, PACE is the only financing option which will provide you with that estimated cash flow analysis to really help you understand the implications of your project. So Efficiency Vermont has also developed a handout to help homeowners be guided through that question. And here's the handout, and as you can see, it's really made up of yes or no questions, and if you answer yes to the majority of them, PACE can be a good option for you. So I'm just going to run through the questions. Do you own your home and live in it? Are you considering a comprehensive energy improvement for your home? Are the improvements likely to cost between $3,500 and $30,000? How long do you think you'll be in your home? Are you familiar with other pros and cons of various types of financing options? So we've also compiled this financing comparison chart of other common financing options. So, you know, if you aren't sure of other options, this is available on our website, which, you know, can help outline some of the major points here. So there are really 4 steps to approval: eligibility, project review, financial review, and then actually applying. So in step number 1, the homeowner will be determining if their property, project, and financials will likely be eligible for PACE. And this is the time that they will also be working with their contractor to develop a scope of work for their project. For the project review step, this is when the homeowner will submit their project to Efficiency Vermont for review, and they will also receive their estimated cash flow analysis, and this is for a fee of $50. In the financial review, step number 3, the homeowner will review their personal financial situation to determine if they will still meet the PACE criteria after their project is taken into account. And then step number 4 is actually applying, and that is a fee of $350. So the next few slides that I'm going to get into are actual screenshots from our website, which are tools that help people, you know, determine if they are going to meet the eligibility requirements.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Can you
Yes.
focus that? Oh, we're not very clear here sitting in Middlebury. The screen is not sharp.
I can focus it.
Oh, please do.
No, it's out of focus.
Well, my eyeballs
Could be better.
My eyeballs aren't that bad.
You know,
Is that better for you folks, or do you need another minute?
That's Zoom, that wasn't focused.
Need another minute.
it was better. That's back to what it was.
That's better. Well, Middlebury's looking better than it was.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and keep going.
Oh,
I don't think that'll help.
Lonnie, maybe if we get people's email addresses, we can email the slides out tomorrow after we're done with this. So when people sign in, we could email them the slides.
Regina was just saying that we will email the slides to everyone probably sometime tomorrow. So
Fantastic.
in step number 1, eligibility, I don't know if I mentioned before, but there are 3 specific areas for the eligibility: property, project, and financial. So this first slide is going over the property requirements. In order to be eligible for PACE, you must live in an owner-occupied residential 1 to 4 unit building. So you must live in a town with a PACE program, and your property must be free of or current on property taxes, sewer charges. It must be free of property tax, federal, state, or municipal liens. It must not be subject to a reverse mortgage transaction, and it must not be in delinquency or foreclosure or any sort of default. The project requirements of the eligibility phase are outlined on the eligible measures document, which is available on our website. Some of the major takeaways from this sheet: the project must cost between $3,500 and $30,000, or 15% of the assessed value of the home, whichever is less. You must take advantage of all eligible rebates and incentives. Repairs and new construction are not eligible through PACE. Health and safety measures may be included, but must not exceed 50% of the total project cost. And some other costs which can be included in the overall assessment can include materials, labor, taxes, application fee, audits, permits, and other things of that nature. If there's ever anything that you're unsure of, you can call Efficiency Vermont and we'll let you know if that can be included. So the financial requirements, there are 2 major ones. The first one is a combined loan to value of less than or equal to 90%. And here you see, or you should see, a tool that we have developed to help people determine what their combined loan to value is, and also determine what's the maximum that they can finance using PACE. So just running through this example that we have in front of us, this homeowner has a property value of $250,000 and they have a mortgage outstanding of $200,000. So when you press the calculate button, it shows you that you have a combined loan to value of 80%, which is eligible for PACE. And the maximum amount that this person can finance is $25,000. So anything more than $25,000 would bring them over the 90%, and they would no longer be eligible for PACE. And the second financial requirement is a debt-to-income ratio of less than or equal to 41%. And here, this is what the tool looks like, and this is really for a homeowner to use themselves to determine what their debt-to-income ratio is. And again, it's just like the previous tool that you'll enter your information, hit a calculate button, and it'll tell you what your debt-to-income is. So for the project review phase, after the homeowner has determined that they meet all of the requirements and they've worked with a contractor to develop their scope of work, they will submit their project review form, a copy of the cost quote from the contractor, and a check for $50. And once me or Carol have verified that all of the measures are eligible, we will perform an estimated first-year cash flow analysis, which, like I said before, will outline the estimated savings and projected payments. And again, to give the homeowner just a very clear understanding of what their project will entail. So here is a sample project review form, and there will be 3 of them depending on what type of project you do. This one happens to be a home performance with Energy Star. The other options are renewable and other efficiency, which would be things like a heating system or a water heater. So it just asks some general information about your home, year it was built, square footage, fuel type, etc. And down at the bottom of the form, this is where you will include any other costs that you would like to include in the overall assessment. So step number 3, financial review. If you have received your estimated cash flow analysis and you decide that you do not want to make any changes, you will proceed to our financial pre-screening tools on our website. You will need to have, obviously, your cash flow analysis, which will outline your savings, a current property tax bill, mortgage, and current debt balances and monthly income. And all of that information is to plug into the tool so you can do your self-assessment. And if you still meet the requirements, the financial requirements, you can contact Efficiency Vermont to receive an application packet. And this financial review step is to really give the homeowner a good idea if they are going to be approved for PACE financing. Because there is a $350 application fee, we just want homeowners to be very, very sure before they're applying. So step number 4 is actually applying. There you will fill out the application form and submit it to the bank with your $350 application fee. And whether or not you are approved, you will be notified. If you are approved, the money will be set aside for your project, and when the work is complete, the funds will be dispersed to your contractors. And then assessment payments will begin, and they will be on the same schedule or around the same schedule as your property tax bills. And then just keep in mind that the assessment can be paid off in full at any time with no penalty. So here we have provided a couple of links if you'd like to just gather a little bit more information about PACE or how you can find an auditor or a renewable installer. You can visit these links. So does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. I'm assuming that the whole financial details have been worked out, that there is a bank that is offering loans and things now?
We are still in negotiations with various partners to determine that.
Do you think that's going to be done this year?
We're hoping to have it done relatively soon. We'd like to have the first subscription period be around the first quarter of 2013.
And all the other details have been worked out?
I would say for the most part. As for our internal process, we know how that's going to work. As for communications back and forth to the banking partners, that will be determined when that's all secured.
This is Alan Johnson in White River Junction. I have a follow-up question to that.
Sure.
So last time when you guys were in Norwich last month, hi Lonnie, you had a timeline. Did I miss that slide this time, or has that been left out from this presentation?
That was not included in this presentation. We, put the timeline together to give people a sense of, how long each step would take or what time frame they had, and we felt that it was starting to get confusing for people putting dates to things and making people think that things would be happening during that time. And it's also just more on PACE will be on a subscription based, so each subscription period will be through different times of the year. So we didn't want tap dates to that.
Right. So remembering back to that timeline, forgetting the specific dates, but just the times that were being outlined, the stages that were being outlined. If I remember correctly, there was a period of time where applications were being accepted, but the interest rate was still unknown. Is that accurate? Is that, or do I misremember?
No, the application period will only be a certain amount of time because that's the amount of time that the bank will lock down the interest rate. So you will not be able to submit applications before the interest rate has been determined.
I see. Okay. That's good to know. And is there any way at this point, assuming there's going to be a subscription period in the first quarter of next year, is there any way at this point to come up with some number, just a maximum? Is it going to be less than 10%? Is it going to be less than 8%? Is it going to be less than 20% that we can use to inform people about the program and say, don't bother getting ready if you're not comfortable paying as high of a rate as X?
The rate is likely to be about 2 or 2.5% higher than a 30-year fixed rate mortgage.
And what is that number when you do the math?
Maybe about 5 or 6%.
About 6%. So is it safe then to say 6% as a maximum interest rate, or maybe 7 would be safer?
I mean, I don't want to say for sure because I'm not 100% sure. Only the bank can say that. So that's the best range that I can give at this time. Right.
So, but yeah, maybe we can nudge Peter really hard to come up with a number that he thinks it's definitely going to be under, just because we need to give people something. We don't want people to bother doing all this work to prepare an application before they know what the interest rate is. If we can't nail down the number exactly, I understand that that's the situation, but what can we do? What can we tell people besides maybe 6%?
I would say maybe around 7%. If you would like to give them a firm number, I'd say around 7%. And just want to add on to that we will be when the subscription periods get going. The project review will be on a more rolling basis, so people will get that estimated cash analysis that will have the estimated interest rate in there, so they will know, what number that will be using.
Okay, so if I were to say, most likely under 6%, definitely under 7%, when people ask the question, is that a fairly safe thing to say, you think?
Yes, but probably more than 4%.
Probably more than 4%, right. Unlikely less than 4%, right, okay. Good. So I don't want to, clog up the airwaves here. I have a lot more questions, but I would be happy to let someone else jump in.
This is what this is for.
Okay. If there's anyone else out there, you feel like I'm, monopolizing the time, just holler and I'll hush. So is there any credit check involved for applicants? Or is there some other proof of debt to income ratio? Or does that require a credit check?
I'm going to default to Carol Weston, the program manager for this one.
Hi, Ellen. There is going to be a credit report that's pulled, and that's going to be used to verify debt in the debt to income calculation. So, income will be provided by the applicant, and debt will be verified by the bank when they pull a credit report. So, in that sense, yes. There's no particular credit score number that anybody needs to have to do PACE, but they'll pull the credit report so they can make sure that they have all of the monthly expenses for folks.
Okay, so just to get the debt number so they can do the debt to income ratio. And even if there's a bankruptcy on the credit report, is that going to choke the process up, or is this meant to help those?
Well, yeah, I mean, they have to certify that they aren't in bankruptcy. That's part of the application. If someone is in bankruptcy, they're not going to be approved.
Well, there's in bankruptcy, right? And then there's out of bankruptcy, but it's still in your report for like 7 years.
Right. the question on the application says that that you must be current on that you must be current on all your payments for mortgages, that you aren't defaulting on anything. I don't know the exact answer to if someone was declared bankruptcy 2 years ago, whether or not that affects their approval. It's not in the it doesn't say in the underwriting requirements that your credit report must be free of anything in particular. It just says that the credit report will be pulled to verify debt. So I can't answer that completely for you at this time, but we can try to dig into that a little more.
Okay. And who is doing that analysis to look at the credit report? Is that done by the banks, or is that done by the state bank? Go ahead.
The state bank won't do it, but the Department of Financial Regulation issues the underwriting criteria that the bank follows. So we aren't changing or modifying anything. And the only reason I don't know the answer to the bankruptcy question is that it's not asked specifically in terms of how many years since you declared bankruptcy on the application. So I'm unfamiliar with how that turns around in a debt, credit report pull, but I can ask that question. But the banking partner will be reviewing all the financial information on behalf of Efficiency Vermont and the towns,
Excuse me,
Okay.
Carol and Lonnie, we have a question online about which banks are in negotiations.
We're not naming those banks right now because they've asked us not to. So until we have final agreements, we are not going to be naming them.
Are they locals? Can you answer that?
Yes, they are.
Local meaning in state.
That is correct.
Okay. It sounded like if there's a single banking partner that's going to be doing the credit reviews, is that, I'd been under the impression that you're looking to have multiple banks enter into a pool of credit. Is that not the case? Is it going to be a single banking partner at this point, or is that something you can share?
There's a difference between what we're calling the banking partner and what you're referring to, I think, as what we've called the credit facility in the past. So I'm sorry if that's confusing, but there will be a group of institutions that will be providing the $20 million in capital. We refer to them as the credit facility, or if you want to just picture in your head a bag of money, that's the credit facility. The banking partner is a bank with whom we will subcontract services to do financial application review for PACE. So they may or may not be involved in the bag of money aspect of the program, but what they will be doing is providing financial services that Efficiency Vermont is not equipped to provide, such as pulling credit reports, collecting financial information, sending disclosures and things like that to people.
I see. So the people providing the money are not necessarily the people making the decision about the applicants. Is that one of them may be in the pool?
Correct.
One of them from the pool may be the people reviewing the application, or more specifically reviewing the credit reports.
That's right.
And applications. Okay.
Yep.
And I think the last question I have is, we're in Hartford. We're putting together our annual newsletter, and we do a front and a back page of an insert that goes into the Valley News every year. And I'm wondering if you guys can drop me, if you have something that I can just slip in there, or maybe we can resize a little bit and fit in, and I can take that offline. But I said I would ask tonight, so I am.
Yeah, just send Lonnie an email, and we'll work out the details of getting something for you. That shouldn't be a problem.
That was my original plan, but I figured since we were going to meet tonight.
I'm going to pass it back to Lonnie, but are there other questions out there from folks?
Yes, in Middlebury. My question is, it's $20 million statewide. The money that will be available is $20 million statewide. Is that correct? Yes. So it doesn't, at that amount of money, it doesn't seem like it's going to run out real fast. I mean, it's not going to be one of those programs where the money just all of a sudden dries up.
I mean, in 3-4 years, I mean, thinking about it, if, the average project cost is about $10,000. So, we can hopefully get some good projects with this.
Okay, thank you.
So we have a question coming in online asking about the fees or costs involved. Lonnie, do you mind just running through that for everybody again?
There is a $50 fee for the project review phase, and then there is a $350 fee for the application, both of which can be rolled into the total assessment cost. I don't know if there's anything more specific that anyone would like to hear about the fees, or maybe like what those are for. Because I can just say that the fee for the cash flow analysis is really for our time spent calculating the savings and reviewing the projects to make sure that everything is eligible. And this same goes kind of for the application fee, that it's the bank's time that they spend reviewing that, and keeping in mind that PACE is funded by the participating property owners, or participating property owners.
I have a question on the application fee. I remember at one point it was supposed to be limited to $300, and I thought that may have come from state statute, but maybe it was just a Efficiency Vermont requirement. And is that just something that, am I remembering correctly, or is that something that just kind of fell apart as they actually started putting together the costs of the program?
It wasn't, it's not in the statute. The $300 was on a couple of documents that had been out there originally, but it was never really a firm number or anything like that. It was just an estimate. We've determined that it's going to be closer to $350. So we were using that number just to make sure that we are giving people a good idea of what it will cost. Certainly if it seems like it's a lot less expensive to do everything once we get started, we can revisit that. But we're pretty certain that $350 is going to be, it's going to come right in on the line of what it costs to do the credit report, the closing, all the title search and things like that you would do in any normal loan closing. So I think it's fair to say that $350 is likely going to be and stay the number. And that is financeable, as Lonnie said. You can roll it in. We had another question come through online that was asking about credit card debt and how that's dealt with. I'm sure many of you have seen your credit report before, but typically what happens when your credit report is pulled and they look at your debt, they look at the minimum payment that's needed for a credit card, and that's how they're reviewed. So whatever your minimum payment is on your credit card bill is what's going to show up on your credit report as what's due every month. So for what that's worth, there was somebody asking about that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Could
There's one more question I'm going to address here. Someone asked, is there a required contribution to the state pool required by the legislation passed last year? And I think I'm going to assume that this person is talking about the loan loss reserve account, and the answer is yes, and we did neglect to mention that. But there are two loss reserve accounts that support the $20 million. One of them is paid by participants at the rate of 2% of the assessment. So on a $10,000 assessment, somebody pays $200 into this loan loss reserve account. It's a one-time fee. It's non-refundable, and it stays in there to support any losses that occur through PACE assessments. There's another loan loss reserve account that's not funded by participants. That's funded by the state, and that's at 5%. So thank you for that question.
You said earlier that the application period is only going to be open for a certain amount of time. Can you tell me how long that time period is going to be, and if it's just going to be a single period per year, or will it be quarterly? Do you know those details?
Yep, I think we're going to try to have at least like 2 to 3 subscription periods per year. And the bank will hold that rate for, I think, about 4 to 6 weeks. So that is when you can apply for PACE.
Another question from Middlebury. How can the individual towns be reimbursed for any administrative costs? Is there a provision for that?
I believe the towns can get $50 per year towards administration fees if they incur any.
And that's if they choose to do that. So when a town adopts PACE, well, I'm going to back up a little bit and say that the state legislation is very clear that the towns cannot, the taxpayers cannot pay for PACE. So in other words, participating property owners should be covering the costs of the program. However, there certainly is going to be some time spent up front reviewing a ballot, learning about PACE, adopting a program, signing an agreement with Efficiency Vermont. All of that upfront work is something that towns are doing on their own to bring PACE to their residents. In addition, as the program unfolds, if they sign with Efficiency Vermont to manage the program, there's very little a town's going to have to do during the normal course of the program. However, I would expect on an annual basis, when we send the annual report, someone in the clerk's office is going to be likely to take a look at it, make a copy of it, show it to the select board. I'm just assuming that might happen. So there may be some time spent there. And so, like I said, during the normal course of events, that's about what you can expect. So if towns do decide that they want to be reimbursed for this time, they can elect to charge $50 per year per assessment if they want. And if they do, they just have to let Efficiency Vermont know that that's the program that they desire, and we would add that $50 to the assessment payments of the participants in that town. I don't think that we've had any towns add that to their provisions yet. Lonnie, am I right? We haven't yet, but it's certainly open to towns to do that. And then I'll say lastly, and I don't want to open a huge can of worms here and go down this rabbit hole, which we've done in many meetings, but in the event that a PACE assessment becomes delinquent, it does fall upon the town to collect that delinquent assessment through the authority they have to tax their residents. So in that instance, there certainly could be some effort expended by the town to collect that delinquent assessment. In that event, fees and interest that a town would assess on a late tax payment are also eligible to be assessed on this PACE assessment. So there's a little bit of a mechanism there to collect. But I always mention that when people ask about town resources, because certainly that's the most significant one when it does occur. Although we hope, most people will end up paying their assessments. We do need to make arrangements for the cases where they don't.
Does the individual pay his assessment to the town?
No, they'll pay their assessment to the bank.
But it'll be on roughly on the same schedule as the tax payments.
Right.
Now, for instance, our town collects taxes 3 times a year. Other towns collect it a different amount of times a year.
Yes, you've uncovered a very fun part of our program, which is to figure out the tax dates of each of the towns and just make sure that the bills go out accordingly. So everybody gets their bills on an annual basis. If you have 2 tax payments a year, you'll have a coupon, a page with 2 coupons. If you have 3, you'll have 3, and so on. And those dates will be due the same as the town's tax dates.
Thank you.
Sure.
Lonnie, we have another question, 2 other questions online, and one is if a homeowner has an audit done and work scope provided, is there a time limit between the date of the audit and the application for PACE?
The answer to that is no. So you could even have your audit done last year and hold on to it and use that, and that would be fine.
Great, thanks.
Hi, this is Alan Johnson in White River Junction again. I have a follow-on question to the application fee conversation. Carol, you said it was $50 a year? Is that's per participant in the town or total for the town? Even if they had 100 participants, they'd only get $50 maximum?
No, I think the idea would be that you would assess a number per assess. That the town would charge a dollar amount per assessment. Otherwise, we'd have to split $100 between a different number of assessments every year, and that would seem strange to me. Yeah.
Me too. I just wanted to make sure that's what you weren't saying that. And that makes more sense to me too, because the town clerk has to do something per application, not per year. The other question I had was not related, but is when debt to income ratios are being calculated, on the income side, are things like retirement contributions and other tax deferred contributions in a paycheck, are those considered in the income, or are they excluded from the income?
If you look on the screen, I'm scrolling to our web page that has the web tools on there, and I'm looking to see if it does take into account.
That's the debt. So is the income above it or below? Oh, there it is. So yeah, go down. There you go.
It's super blurry here. I don't know if
it says. Here's what it says. It says monthly wages and salaries, overtime pay, commissions, fees, tips, bonuses, housing allowances, and other compensation for perennial services. Monthly Social Security payments, including Social Security and adoption subsidies received by adults on behalf of minors or by minors intended for their own support. Monthly income from annuities, insurance policies, retirement funds, pensions, disability or death benefits, unemployment benefits, rental income, and other continuing income. And then monthly estimated energy savings from proposed projects. So in other words, if you have a cash flow positive project, the income will be considered to help your debt to income ratio. So, if you're on the bubble in terms of getting approved, there's a potential for a positive cash flow to make a difference for you, and that's why it's included there.
Right.
So it looks like it's very similar to a tax form. It came from the Department of Financial Regulation, looking a lot like a tax form, and this is verbatim from the document that they provided to us.
Okay, and it doesn't explicitly say it's excluding contributions, pre-tax contributions to anything. So it sounds like you just take your base salary and plug that in the first spot along with all those other things. Like if you're looking at your monthly paycheck, you take the top line as opposed to the bottom line.
That's right, and that would make sense because that's how much money you make, and that's what they want to see. So.
Right, and they're trying to see a debt-to-income ratio of 41%, where the rest of your paycheck goes to everything else like eating and retirement funds and health care and all that. Yep. Okay.
Does anyone else have any other questions?
So
Newport, I just have one.
Oh, go ahead, Newport.
This is mostly for Lanny, whatever. Appreciate your sending me the packets. I would like another dozen.
Are these the Newtown packets that you're looking for?
Correct.
Okay, we can send those along.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will send those along.
Thanks very much.
So we had a question come through online, and I'm just going to read it out there. It says, is there a reason financing energy efficient upgrades really has to be this complicated? And I guess I would say that there is definitely a lot to it. It seems like a lot when you first look at it, but in reality, there are some benefits that Lonnie talked about that I think are important in terms of being able to realize energy savings and have that count towards your qualifications, being able to, sell your home with energy benefits and transfer the assessment. But In terms of complications, yes, there are some things to think about, but the way the program is designed is really to help people think. It's not to make you think. It's to provide you with information that will help you make the right decision. So it's not intended to be complicated. And we definitely will try to make the process as smooth as we can. But really, if you think about the benefits of the process, you're going to get a cash flow analysis that describes your project in detail and how much energy you can save and thus how much money you can save. And then also a process that allows you to take a hard look at your own financial situation and determine if you're going to be approved for this before you actually go out and take the money out and apply. So I will also say that, Lonnie and I are here to help, and our biggest goal is to make sure people understand the process and know what they're doing and making good decisions for themselves. But that, so that I really want people to know that we're here to help you. So if you have a question, pick up the phone, email us. We'll do the best we can. And hopefully after the first year or so, we'll really be able to iron out a lot of the kinks in the process and really make things as smooth as possible for people. But there's a reason why people want to do this. There's a reason why people want to make investments in their home. And I think this is one of many options for folks. And hopefully people take a look at it. And if it works for them, then they'll do it.
I would just like to add to that for anybody who's concerned, remember this is the first go of it in this form. So I know the legislature is going to be looking at the PACE laws again, if not this year, certainly in years to come. And I know that Carol and Lonnie and Peter and all the good people at Efficiency Vermont are constantly looking for ways to streamline and improve things. I know Peter in particular is chomping at the bit to have a streamlined version of the application and approval process. He has been from day one, and it just didn't, the banks just weren't ready to get into that level of speed yet, as you can tell by how slowly they're getting into what's being offered now. So, patience, I think, is a virtue in this case, and there are, if people are in such a huge hurry, there are other options, just maybe not maybe not with these specific advantages of PACE, but there's certainly other ways to finance your improvements.
So I don't think we have any other questions, so that pretty much wraps it up for the night. I just wanted to end by again telling people and directing everyone to our website, efficiencyvermont.com/PACE. And this also, we'll go over the 4 steps of approval if you have time to check it out. So thank you everyone for logging on and joining us. And again, if you ever have any questions, please pick up the phone and call Carol or I.